Hello and welcome to News Epicenter with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. The shadow of terror, ladies and gentlemen, continues to loom over the Kashmir Valley, and those who were driven out by Islamic terrorists are in the line of fire once again. Now, amid targeted killings of Kashmiri Pandits who simply aim to reclaim their home in the Kashmir Valley, fresh panic has gripped the Hindu community after the terror group, the TRF, a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, released a list of 57 Kashmiri Pandit government employees vowing to eliminate them. Kashmiri Pandits have been protesting for weeks, demanding their relocation to the safer Jammu region, as there is no end to the threat in the valley. To address the situation, the Union Home Secretary chaired a high-level meeting along with the Chief of RAW and National Security Advisor Ajay Bhalla to review the security situation. In fact, top government sources indicate discussions were held on boosting the conviction rate in UAPA cases, as well as curbing weapons and drug drops by drones from across the border. But the threat is clear and present, ladies and gentlemen. While no one can deny that the Modi government has done the most to push normalization in the Kashmir Valley, namely with the abrogation of Article 370, crippling the terror infrastructure remains a challenge. The armed Kashmiri Hindu and migrant workers who are at the front lines of this normalization are the easiest targets. This raises multiple questions. Is there a final solution for terror in Jammu and Kashmir? Would the relocation be an admission of defeat from the centre? Who do the Kashmiri Pandits turn to? Are Kashmiri Pandits political pawns in a larger ideological fight? Is it time to admit that sympathy for terrorists in the Kashmir Valley remains an advantage for the terror machine from Pakistan? And finally, will those who called the Kashmir files vile propaganda still stand by their statements? And why are they silent? Before we get to our guest, we're getting a piece of breaking news. Now, after the high-level meeting of the Home Ministry, the crackdown on the terror infrastructure continues in Jammu and Kashmir. Security agencies have been asked to identify moles inside the Jammu and Kashmir government, in those government departments who have been providing inputs and documents to terror outfits. So the push that's coming in from the centre is to purge the entire Jammu and Kashmir government, to identify moles within the Jammu and Kashmir administration so that they can be removed and action can be taken against them, because as per the security agencies, they are feeding information to terrorists. So after that high-level security meeting which took place at the MHA, this is the message that has come to the security agencies to purge these moles inside the Jammu and Kashmir government. I'm joined by my colleague Tejinder Singh Sodhi, who's getting us this piece of breaking news. Tejinder, give us the details.
Yes, Ayushman, you see, after the list of 56 Kashmiri Pandit migrant employees that was published on the terror blog called Kashmir Fights, which is being operated by the Lashkar-e-Taiba and is being operated from POK, Turkey and Pakistan. So this is the information which security agencies have so far. After today's meeting, the security agencies in Jammu and Kashmir, they have been told to go tough on terror outfits and their ecosystem. If you remember, a couple of months ago, the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha had said that though we are killing the terrorists, but until and unless we don't eradicate the entire ecosystem of terror in Jammu and Kashmir, terrorism will not end. So now the focus would be on the root of terrorism, the entire ecosystem. Those officials, if you remember, in the last couple of months, the Jammu and Kashmir administration has been working really hard to identify these moles who have been working for Pakistan, who have been working for terror outfits. If you remember, Bita Karate's wife, who was a Jammu Kashmir Administrative Service officer, but she was acting as a cash mule for terror outfits. She was identified and she was sacked. Several such employees, even in the University of Kashmir, serving professors, they were identified who had terror links and they were sacked from the government job. Now the agencies have been tasked to find out the moles within the government offices, various government offices who are leaking the information to the terror outfits, who are leaking the information. Because if you remember, the agencies are also trying to find out how come the government orders, before being issued to the concerned officials, they are being circulated on WhatsApp groups. So this is a big security lapse which is being investigated. The agencies in Jammu and Kashmir, they have been told to identify such moles and take action against them. Yes, Ayushman.
Right. Thank you, Tejinder, for getting us that piece of breaking news. Now let's get to our guest. Brigadier Anil Gupta, BJP leader from Jammu and Kashmir, is joining us on the broadcast, along with Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former DG Infantry, Amit Raina, Kashmiri activist, and Majid Haidari, senior journalist. Good evening, gentlemen. Brigadier Anil Gupta, I'll come to you first. This purge of the Jammu and Kashmir government that is required to eradicate terror moles from within the administration. It's been 3 years since the abrogation of Article 370. Do you think these gaps when it comes to the crackdown on the terror infrastructure continue to derail any Vikas agenda coming in from the center when it comes to normalizing Jammu and Kashmir in the wake of the abrogation of Article 370?
You are perfectly all right and perfectly correct, because this terror ecosystem in Kashmir is so deep-rooted that purging a few is not going to make the difference. It needs thorough cleansing, not only in the government departments, but also in the police and the higher hierarchy of administration. There are so many people by the previous governments who had been recruited under the garb of Rahbar, the various Rahbar schemes. And these people were basically the cadre of the hardliner, radicalized Jamaat. So these people still continue to be in the system. They are part of the system. They are the government employees. And they are the ones who are feeding information to the Pakistani terror outfits.
Right. But Amit Raina, I want you to come in on this. The threat, the shadow of terror over Kashmiri Pandits continue. You know there are those vested interests from the Kashmiri parties when it comes to even the targeting of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. But at the same time, even after the abrogation of Article 370, the terror infrastructure continues to be a threat. Who do the Kashmiri Pandits turn to at the end of the day?
See, one thing which has remained constant prior to abrogation of Article 370 and post-abrogation of Article 370 is the continuous genocide of Kashmiri Pandits. And unfortunately, the abrogation of Article 370 does not seem to have been able to put any stop to it. And we need to understand that while Brigadier Saab was talking about cleansing office and all that, the problem is not cleansing offices or the security forces. The problem is you need to cleanse the mind, and the ecosystem cannot be derailed unless and until there's not an overhaul of the society. I'm not even saying system, because hardline Islam has so much become integral part of Kashmir that you will constantly find sympathizers coming out and finding and giving support to the terror module. Now, if hybrid terrorism is a success today, hybrid terrorism can be a success only if there's a constant support from the society. Because the terror, you do not know the terrorist comes, does this act, and then goes and vanishes back into the society. There's a proper ecosystem available to him, which does not allow him to be identified. So one has to work on that ecosystem and what creates that ecosystem. Unfortunately, the hardline Islam in Kashmir creates that ecosystem, and government of India has not been successful in breaking that, in stopping the hardline Islam and spreading in the valley. So you may have been put situation under control in valley, but have you been able to solve it? I seriously doubt. Second, the most important thing is that you have continued as a state, and I will not hold any party responsible. The state of India has continued to deny the genocide which has been happening in Kashmir. And in that denial, you have gone and denied the justice the victims of the genocide need. You have zero conviction on any terror killing. You have no blueprint on the return of Kashmiri Pandits. You can only use survival package. The PM package is a survival package. You use economic package as a rehabilitation package. You do not plan properly. It is just something in hurry you cook up to sacrifice the Hindus of Kashmir on the altar of secularism in Kashmir. That's the unfortunate part of it.
Right. Brigadier Gupta, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, you see, Raina just made a statement that I was talking about purging. Your question was specific to purging. That's why I answered that. Otherwise, I also believe that till such time there's a change in mindset. And the entire Kashmiri society has to take the responsibility, because terrorists cannot survive without public support. A terrorist without a public support is like a fish out of water. So The terrorism is thriving in Kashmir today because there is support in the public also from for the terrorists. Now, see this case. The Kashmiri Pandits, where do your question? You asked, whom do the Kashmiri Pandits go to? The Kashmiri Pandits don't have to go to anybody, but it is the Kashmiri Muslims in Kashmir who should welcome the open arms. You have heard statements from various political leaders, the valley-based political leaders, but none of them have condemned the TRF. They are just trying to say how this list has been leaked and all that. They are trying to politicize the entire issue. It's not a political problem, it's a humanitarian problem. And the Kashmiri society has to welcome and they have to assure, they have to guarantee the lives of the Kashmiri Pandits that they will live where they were living. That monolith character of Kashmiri society needs to be broken. That can be only broken by Kashmiri Muslims themselves.
Right. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, I want to get your take on this as a military man. When it comes to tackling terror, you can kill as many terrorists, you can arrest as many OGWs, but do you think the central aspect of any military strategy, which is the battle for hearts and minds, that comes a generation later when it comes to the anti-terror drive? You may eradicate the terror infrastructure, but to win the battle of hearts and minds, for that mindset change, it takes at least a generation. Would you agree to that?
100%. 100%. What happens is, as both the speakers, who better than they, because they're there and they know exactly what's happening there. We only serve there, and having served there for say 20 years, we know exactly what it is all about. Let me tell you the ecosystem what we are talking about. It's very essential for the mindset to change. There is no denying the fact. Winning the hearts and minds is extremely, extremely important, and that's been on for years and years together. Until and unless the Kashmiri Muslims themselves realize that there is a need to coexist with all of them, there cannot be a change of mindset. Now, look at it. Now, we have the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, what is the majority in Kashmir? You will have the Muslims. And in what number? Over 95%. Now, you come down to Jammu. Who's the majority? Hindus. What percentage? Maybe about 50 or to about 60% maximum. So, you find that both the Jammuites and the Kashmiri have to coexist together. And if they are not able to make the other party realize that, look, both of us are dependent on each other and there is a need to ensure this. Now, even the rehabilitation package which has been said, let's presume that we relocate. What does relocation mean? The government is trying its level best to ensure that everybody live together and we kill this ecosystem that is the spread of terrorism. Where is the terrorism coming from? From across, from Pakistan. But does Pakistan alone do it? No, they do it because there are a whole lot of people within the Kashmir Valley supported by local political parties and also the kind of people that they are there, and that is why it survives. Otherwise, it's impossible. Like what Brigadier Gupta says, is a fish out of water. It cannot survive. But the fact that it survives is indicative that there is more. Obviously, the generation which is born after 89 has a different mindset. The generation which is born before that probably has a different mindset. So this mindset has to change. It will change. It has changed. If anybody tells me that after the abrogation of Article 370, the things have not changed, I will not accept it. Because I go there every year to see for myself. I know from the airport till interiors that we move around, there is a tremendous amount of sea change. The people themselves have realized. But over the years, the population has risen. Now, everybody demands a job. Everybody wants a state job. Nobody wants to go anywhere else. Now, within a family, you can have a terrorist, you can have a terrorist-leaning person, you could well have a professor, you could also have a doctor, an engineer, an Anganwadi worker, everybody all within. So there is a lot which we need to do.
Absolutely.
And very essential. I think government has done a lot to win the hearts and minds, but the hearts and minds have to be won. The people themselves have to realize. If people realize it, this thing will not last even more than 3 months. But if you were to work and work towards it, but the people have to have a different mindset, or they try and blackmail the government that we will keep doing this, you keep giving us this. We'll keep doing this and then killing here and there to ensure, kill one and scare thousands and lakhs of people. That's what is happening.
Absolutely.
There's a lot.
Yes, Lieutenant General Kulkarni, I want to take that point as well, that when it comes to the Jammu region, the battle of hearts and minds has been won since day one, because Jammu has been the region which has allowed every community to thrive. But the problem has always persisted in the Kashmir Valley, where it seems that these hardline elements continue to persist with local support. And Majid Hydari, I want to get you on that point. Is it time to admit that sympathy for terrorists in the Kashmir Valley is one of the biggest weapons in the hands of Pakistan?
Well, sir, firstly, it's not the first time that a hit list has been issued. In the last 2 odd years, I would say, multiple hit lists have been issued, and I know some of the people whose names figured multiple times in those hit lists. But the irony remains that the J&K administration never even approached such people with a kind of idea of security or the do's and don'ts they need to take to safeguard their lives. So that is the plight of security bandobast we have in Kashmir. Now, coming to this point, see, saving anybody's life, human life, is not rocket technology. The basic point is that if anybody has threat to life, especially the Kashmiri Pandits, how to safeguard their lives, and nobody is discussing that. The first point is that if Kashmiri Pandits in particular have a threat to their lives of coming to Kashmir, at least decide about the government servants, the public servants who are being pushed to Kashmir or not being given their salaries if they don't come to Kashmir to be in the death trap. First, the fault lies on the part of government. It's the responsibility, the duty of government to ensure every individual's life, because this is democracy and every life equally matters. But for the last 2 years, we are discussing, oh, now it's hybrid terror, now it is this terror, now it's an ecosystem. We are trying to defend the government for its failures, which is unfortunately incorrect. Why did Rahul Bhatt get killed? Why did others get killed? How come government servers getting killed in government offices itself? So it's a typical failure on the part of government and its policies on Jammu and Kashmir. It's not only Kashmir that we have such issues happening. When Honorable Prime Minister visited Jammu this year, there was a blast that very day in Jammu, and then that day the security establishment said it was a meteorite. And then 10 days later, no, they said the meteorite had some RDX. So the problem is we are not questioning government, we are not making government accountable, and this is the responsibility of media channels like you to put some strict and uneasy questions to government as to why it's failing to safeguard lives. This is what we need to discuss primarily, not
My main
those
question,
ABC, blah, blah, blah.
So you're saying that there is no public support for terrorists in the Kashmir Valley?
See, there is no genuine human will support terror. The point is that there is a failure on the government policy on Jammu and Kashmir. As I gave you the quite big examples that those having threat to life are not even being approached on how they should safeguard their lives, and then coming to Honorable Prime Minister's visit. So you don't have your idea of governance in place in Kashmir, sir. Please understand that.
No, I'm talking particularly about the terror infrastructure. I'm talking particularly about the terror infrastructure. In your opinion, why has it thrived in the valley and not in Ladakh or Jammu? Explain that.
See, I gave you the example of Jammu.
Jammu, are you telling me that there is a? Are you telling me the people of Jammu, the Dogras of Jammu, have been consistent victims of terror?
It's not about who supports terror.
Are you telling me the Ladakhis are consistent victims of terror?
Terror strike in Mumbai. We had 26/11 in Mumbai.
Yeah, you had 26/11. How many target killings have happened in Kashmir? Tell me about the target.
But it's in dozens.
You tell me about the target killings in Jammu. You tell me about the target killings in Ladakh. There is a difference between the mindset of the Kashmiri Muslim, the Dogra Hindu, as well as the Ladakhi.
Sir, you are again making the same plea. The point is that nobody should lose his life. That is the point. No innocent civilian or security personnel or anybody innocent should lose his life, and that is the responsibility of the government. We can't defend government on this issue. This is ecosystem, genocide, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, government is responsible to ensure safety of everybody.
Brigadier Gupta, you want to respond to that, and then Amit Raina. Brigadier Gupta, then Amit Raina.
Yeah. You see, Majid Hydri in his typical style has tried to sideline and sidetrack the issue. Thank God he's not brought in China. That's his favorite subject. But he fails to accept and acknowledge the root cause. And root cause is the local support to terrorism. And he is part of that system. But he fails to agree. He denies it totally just because it suits him. See, it's not only Kashmiri Pandits. Why they're targeted killing in Kashmir? Why the local Kashmiris are not being targeted? Very few of them have been targeted because they were nationalists. The others who had benefited immensely from this militancy, they are the ones who want this pot to keep boiling. They want that, they think that through this they can keep blackmailing the center. And they are now trying to blame the government. The government and the security forces have tried their best. Whatever could be given to Kashmir has been given. They have tried their best. Everything has been given to Kashmir on the platter. But still, the militancy is not going. It is because of the local support which is existing there. And people like Majid Hydri have to accept this. Otherwise, this will carry on. These are the people who are the, I would say, the spoke in the wheel. They are the ones who are ensuring that the militancy survives. They are keeping the pot boiling.
But Brigadier Gupta, what do the Kashmiri Pandits do then? because they have been placed in the Kashmir Valley. The terror threat continues. What do they do then? I agree that you're saying that there is a mindset problem that which is helping the entire terror machine. But Amit Raina, come in on this. Where do the Kashmiri Pandits turn? They want to return to their homeland, but I want to also flip this argument that the abrogation of Article 370, the crackdown on the terror infrastructure, what the Modi government has done when it comes to making
Kashmiri Pandits on this.
I'm giving him the opportunity, Mr. Aydri, please. Amit Raina, when it comes to the abrogation of Article 370, when it comes to the crackdown on the terror infrastructure, do you agree that what the Modi government has achieved has been unprecedented? Of course, you have an entire mindset problem. You have generations of people who have been spread hate against the Kashmiri Pandit, and to eradicate that will take time.
See, there is no doubt that what happened on 5th August 2019 was historic and unprecedented. And what subsequently happened is also unprecedented. But as I said in the beginning, are we looking to control the situation in Kashmir, or are we looking to solve the situation in Kashmir? There are two different things. If we are looking to control the situation in Kashmir, then yes, what is happening right now is perfectly fine. But if we are looking for a permanent solution, then there has to be measures and steps taken which are much beyond this. When I say solution, that means the Kashmiri Pandits who have been thrown out of the valley, who have been forced to flee the valley, come back and live with dignity without any fear and with their own choice. That unfortunately has not happened, and there is no plan on the same. It's not only about Kashmiri Pandits coming back to valley. We have abrogated till 370 and 35A so that rest of India, the people from rest of India can come and live in Kashmir without any fear. And we have been unsuccessful in doing so. We have seen practically zero purchase of property that has happened in Kashmir. We have seen almost zero level of migration from rest of India to Kashmir. We have seen 0% of investment from rest of India into Kashmir. So while investment is flowing into the Jammu part of this, of the Jammu and Kashmir state, we have not seen that happening in Kashmir. So if you have to get Kashmiri Pandits back in Kashmir, if you have to get rest of India back in Kashmir, you will have to do first and more important thing is to deliver justice. For that, you will have to acknowledge genocide, because once you acknowledge genocide, then you will be able to punish the people who current IPC section does not allow you to touch. People who have been helping in creating this ecosystem. The political parties, what will you do to Farooq Abdullah? You are today saying that he's an anti-national, but you can't stop him from fighting an election, and he will win the election because National Conference is a strong base. What can you do about Mufti? You can call her anti-national, but she will continue to contest election. So you'll have to create genocide laws which will punish people who help in creating this ecosystem. Second, you will have to create a space, a place which will be the one place settlement where the Kashmiri Hindus will come back and live together. You cannot scatter us again. We were killed in 1990 because we were scattered across the Kashmiri Valley. You are again sending us back, scattering us in the Kashmiri Valley and making us sitting ducks. You cannot allow we will not allow that to us to happen. So if you want us back, and we want to go back, it's a motherland. If you want us back, you want to go back, you have to give us one place settlement. Not only Kashmiri Pandits will live there, everyone who believes in the Constitution of India will live there, and every Indian who wants to go and settle down in Kashmir will live there.
Absolutely. Brigadier Gupta, I wanted to give you a chance to respond, because that pitch coming in from Amit Raina is something that abounds within the Kashmiri Pandit community. You need to punish the ones who are responsible for fomenting the tension in the 1990s, which includes many people who are in high political positions right now in the Kashmir Valley.
I agree 101% with Ajay Raina. That is what should happen. I also agree that one place settlement is the solution. Penny pockets is not the solution. I fully agree with him. And still, I would also add to it that not only Kashmiri Pandits, the retired ex-servicemen should also be encouraged to settle in Kashmir. And that is only possible if you have areas earmarked for them. See what happened in Andaman Nicobar. What happened in Tarai. It was the ex-servicemen who brought the situation under control and today they are prospering. So even Kashmir, if we want to restore the demography there, you have to do this. That is the right approach.
Right. General Kulkarni, I want to give you the final word. Is there a final solution to eradicate terror from Jammu and Kashmir?
See, eradication terror seems at the present environment primarily because we have a neighbor like Pakistan, and now Pakistan also being supported by China. It seems very difficult. But yes, controlling militancy by all means, yes, and that is being done, and that should be the first phase. Secondly, the government that is being targeted again and again. People must understand government is of the people and by the people and for the people. From Kashmir, who do you elect? The same lot of people who are supporting one another. And therefore, it is to say the government should do it. The government, who is the government? The government is we and you. There's nobody else, nobody from outside to come and guard. Are you expecting somebody else to govern them? They are the people who are supposed to govern themselves, and they are who better than them? I think eradication of militancy is the primary responsibility of the people of Kashmir. If they decide that this has to be eradicated, it will be eradicated. But otherwise, the government is doing its best to ensure that it is minimized, and it will continue to ensure it is minimized by the development that is going on in the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this great debate that we've had when it comes to the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Brigadier Anil Gupta, Lieutenant Sanjay Kulkarni, Amit Raina, and Majid Hydari. Thank you for joining us on this debate. Now, let's shift focus. The conversion debate, ladies and gentlemen, has erupted once again. Now, underlining the issue of forced religious conversions as a very serious matter, the Supreme Court said that while charity is welcome, its purpose should not be to convert the gullible. The Supreme Court has said that forceful conversions is a serious issue and against the basic structure of the Constitution. The Supreme Court also added that communal harmony in India is paramount and has asked the centre to file a detailed affidavit. Remember, a plea was filed by Advocate Ashwini Upadhyay seeking to curb forced religious conversions. Well, the plea was challenged by the Kerala Yuktivadi Sangham, stating that Upadhyay's petition is a plea based on hyperbole, exaggeration, and lacks material to show any alarming situation. The Supreme Court dismissed the plea and has asked the centre to collate data from all states. The next hearing will take place on the 12th of December. Now, two aspects emerge from this case. Number one, we have seen how pastors from Sweden and Germany have been nabbed for flouting visa regulations by attending religious events and taking part in conversion drives under the garb of being tourists. This indicates organized rackets by religious groups to expand the footprint of their particular faith. But number two, the question emerges, is there a social and legal quandary when we are dealing with forced versus willing conversions? Can I, as an individual, legally barter my faith for a better life? Or by doing that, do I become part of a wider systemic problem? That is debate 2 on News Epicenter.
चैरिटी करना है, किसी की मदद करना है, एजुकेशनल हेल्प करना है, इलाज कराना है, आप वो मदद करिए। किसी को कन्वर्ट करने के लिए अगर मदद कर रहे हैं तो ये बिल्कुल अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है।
We're joined by Deshratan Nigar, lawyer and political analyst on the broadcast. We'll also be joined by our other guest to decode this entire situation. Mr. Nigam, thank you for joining us on News Epicenter. My first question is, I want to ask this from an individual perspective. Now, does an Indian citizen have the legal right to barter their faith for a better life?
Well, in fact, let me be very clear and categorical on this subject, Ayushman, that our constitution does not give anybody a right to convert. An individual, if he genuinely believes in the change in belief system that he has, then he is permitted. He cannot take inducement, allurements, or he cannot be cheated. There cannot be any deceit if all or illegal conversion. If it is there, then this becomes anti-constitutional. It is also a crime in many states. And therefore, that bartering is not allowed. And if anybody wants to, as Supreme Court observed also, that such kind of illegal conversions are becoming a menace, and it's a very serious issue. They said they are not going to get technical on it, but they are there to find a solution. And they said it affects in fact, jeopardizes the national security and integrity. And therefore, it's gone beyond the normal mundane, concepts of conversion. There is a project Joshua which goes on where people, missionaries come with multiple entries. As you also pointed out, that many people come here as a tourist and then indulge in the illegal conversion activity. One of them died in Andaman Nicobar also, where he tried to make a contact with the aboriginal tribals, when he was killed by the tribals because he was trying to do his conversion activities, illegal conversion activities there. So therefore that barter system is not allowed. If you genuinely have a change in belief, and most of the cases in India, if you look at it, the name also continues, the Hindu names also continue, and there is no change. They keep the caste certificate also, so they get Hindu benefits also, caste benefits, and a lot of crypto Christians are there, and they have those fake caste certificates as well. So this is a very serious issue. You, and also our constitution gives you a right to propagate, and Stanislaus case is very clear. Right to propagate does not give you any right to convert, and propagation means, this concept has been taken from the plant production, that you produce more plants from the original. Don't take other plants into your fold. So the concept has come from the plant propagation, where from your own original species, if the children born, you have to keep them in your own faith and to, do prachar or whatever you wish to, or teach them so that they do not go out of the fold. The concept of propagation needs to be actually really defined by the Supreme Court in this PIL, which is pending in the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has indicated its initial mind through oral observations.
Right. I'm also joined by Karthik Chopra, political analyst, and Kevin Matthews Sani, social activist on the broadcast. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Karthik Chopra, I'll come to you on this point. Now, I as an individual, I want to pursue the path of Christ, let's say. And a church approaches me and they say that we can show you the path to Christ. Now, if they offer me, let's say, if you join our church, we will give you a free ration for a month. Am I breaking the law?
Of course you are, because, right to religion is something that must, or right to faith. A faith is something that comes from within. If I, out of free choice, without any economic inducement, have the full right to choose any which faith which I want, or any subsect of that faith if I should so choose. But if you say, that the church is offering inducements, then what is our Hindu community doing? Why are we not taking care of those who are economically downtrodden, the people who are being induced? We are very, we sit in TV studios, or we sit in our offices or in our great parties, etc. And then we say, we must not let conversion take place, and put the whole onus of responsibility onto the government. I also live in Kashmir. Forget about conversion from Hindu's faith to other faiths. Within the Muslim faith itself, I have found that there are, at times in the past, there have been members of my staff whose children have been going to good public schools, and then one day they suddenly come wearing full-fledged hijab, burqa, and upon my questioning, I am told that he's enrolled them in a madrasa. That's when it's my responsibility to make sure that I pay for that public school education for those kids. And today, both those kids of that one particular staff of mine are working in multinational companies. So, apart from constantly blaming the government that the government needs to do more or the courts need to do more, we must, as it is our social responsibility to ensure that any kind of economically induced conversions do not take place whatsoever, as long as they're happening in front of us. Of course, we need a law. No kind of economic inducement should be allowed for conversion from one faith to another. But as a community, as a faith, as a religion, we also have responsibility to those in our faith who are not economically as well off as we may be. And therefore, sometimes they have absolutely no choice but for that free ration to convert.
Right. But Karthik, and that's the problem. In the absence of that, then you are induced by people of other faiths. That's when the other groups chime in. Kevin Matthews Sani, I want to get your take on this. If there is a strict anti-conversion law, is there a threat to personal liberties of Indian citizens?
See, let me first start by saying this. Forced conversions are an issue, and that should be stopped by law. Apart from religion and faith, it should stay this. But, our country has an anti-forced conversion law. Each state, it's because it comes under the federal system, it comes under the purview of the state. Each state has its own way of handling it. And that is good. That is a system in place. See, as everything else in this country, it partially works. It has a lot of scope for improvement, and that improvement should happen. But having said that, one thing I should say is what is happening right now, even with Ashwini's lawsuit and all, is their intentions are very clear. You had Ashwini itself coming on this channel earlier and saying that, see, his problem is not about conversions. His problem is his own insecurities about his faith. And so my question is, you have people talking about people converting and keeping their Hindu caste certificate. So is the problem they're converting their religion officially, or is it a problem they're converting from one faith to another faith? That is one question. These are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, having said that, our country also gives you the right to propagate their own ideologies. Faith is, in a sense, an ideology that is similar to political ideology too. So it's a very thin line, and we trying to tip the scales too soon would actually cause more damage than good in all probability. So this is a very cautious line.
I don't agree at all.
You should tread carefully, and such exuberant actions will only cause further damage.
Right.
Especially when these people are acting on their own insecurities.
Absolutely. So that's the point that you're trying to make, that this is all political in nature because of, as you're pointing out, religious insecurity. Maulana Masood Kazmi is also joining us on the broadcast. Sir, how do you see this push that's come in for a strong anti-conversion law and the observations that have been made by the top court of the country? Do you see any ironclad anti-conversion law as a threat to personal liberties in this country, including the freedom of religion?
No, Ayushman, the 2 points are very important here. There is no mechanism to differentiate between the forceful conversion, between the allurement conversion inducement, and willful conversion. Suppose if I am hungry, my children are hungry, my children are sick, and some people come out, some sisters come out, and they help me, they feed me, they take my children to hospital. After some time, my heart stands for them. Mm-hmm. How can you claim that this is the brainwashing conversion? The point is that we cannot differentiate between the willful conversion and conversion with allurement, conversion with allurement, with money, and with medicine, with hospitalization. This is our responsibility. All the governments are not doing enough for the deprived section of the country. People are hungry, people are starving, and some people go there with a helping hand. So after some time they get converted. So we are also trying to stop all this. Where is our what is our economic situation today? Number two, if you want to stop conversion, bring a law in parliament and make a constitutional amendment. You are enjoying full majority in both houses of the parliament. You can do anything. Why are you on the name of conversion, time to time distracting the attention of the people?
Right. So we'll get to that point, but I think you raised a very important issue, sir, Mr. Kazmi. I think you've raised a very important issue. I want to ask Deshratan Nigam on that point. Sir, isn't that the quandary that we face when it comes to policing conversions? What is the difference? How do you create that difference between a forced and willing conversion? Because the line is so thin between the two.
Yes, I don't think the line.
This is the brainwash.
Mr. Kazmi, I think I asked that question to Deshratan Nigam. Please let him answer.
Religion of a person before we feed him or help him.
Karthik, let Mr. Nigam answer that question, please. Yeah, go for it.
Ayushman, in fact, the line is not thin. It will depend on the facts and circumstances of each case and the evidence. And anti-conversion laws have been made by various states because religion is basically a state subject. And therefore, these, whether it is Madhya Pradesh law or Odisha law, they have been upheld to be constitutional by the court. They have upheld the provisions there, and whether it is a forced conversion or not. See, the onus in all these laws lies on the people who are converting. Mm-hmm. Therefore, while you are doing charity, The intention is not to convert. You can help that person. That does not mean you should convert. You should go with an open heart and help the person. NGOs must go and help the person, not with a motive to convert and to allure them. Therefore, onus not lies on the person who's getting converted, but all these laws, if it is a genuine belief, change in belief system, it is perfectly all right. But the onus lies on the people who are converting with the intention of converting people through charity. That is what the pertinent question which was raised, and it will depend on each and every case, which will have a separate, factual matrix.
Right.
And one cannot, compare one case with other. So we require a law. It has been upheld by the court, and the court has given a new dimension to it of the national security and integrity being threatened by such kind of illegal, deceitful allurement, inducement with respect to conversion. Therefore, this is a serious issue. We must take it, and anybody who is in India, whether NGOs, missionaries, charity does not mean to convert. Even in your also does not, none of the scriptures say that you give allurement to bring them into your own fold. Leave it to that person. If there is a change in belief, genuine change in heart, he is most welcome to follow
Mr.
a different
Nagam, my
belief
fear is that you'll be running circles when it comes to gathering evidence, because how do you prove that someone didn't join a particular faith after getting a certain some service or ration from a church or a mosque? Karthik, you want to come in on this? And that is my problem.
Yes.
Do you feel that the
to
problem is that our entire law and order machinery will start running circles when it comes to trying to prove whether something is forced or willing? Go for it.
Not at all, Ayushman, not at all. What I would like to say is, carrying on.
Mr. Nigam, I want to let Karthik answer that question. Karthik, go ahead.
Carrying on from what Deshratham said, there's the aspect of national security. If each and every NGO or charitable organization is openly willing to subject themselves to a scrutiny and audit of their books of accounts, both from domestic as well as international funding, automatically their intentions will be clearly known. Any organization, there are today huge Eid foundations operating in Kerala, which receive money from the Middle East, from associates of the PFI. These funds then find themselves into Uttar Pradesh, into Kashmir, into other parts of the country. There are funds coming from Christian groups around the world, which are coming into organizations and churches here. Look, I don't have to be a good Christian or a good Muslim that I need to first ask the faith of a person before I convert him or before I help him. If I see a person in need, from the goodness of my heart, I should be able to help them. So, if we allude to the fact that there is a huge national security risk because of these conversions, or let us say conspiracy to convert, under relevant sections of law, there is a willful conspiracy at times to convert sections of our society. And for this, if there is the tool that is required is funds to be able to produce all the wherewithal to carry this out. If those who are receiving these funds have no problem whatsoever to a complete scrutiny of their funds and books of accounts by the state and the government machinery, great, their work is good and pious. But if they don't want to subject themselves to such audit, automatically there must be something wrong here. So we don't really have to look at, of course, each and every case where a person converts, there are circumstances, like Deshrathan is saying, there's a certain matrix where you feel that there are certain circumstances because of which he's converting. But are those circumstances being taken advantage of under some kind of international will conspiracy? Or is it purely from the goodness of the heart of these charitable organizations that they say, all right, we'll feed you, but you must convert first?
But Karthik, my point is that it's still he said, she said. How do you prove whether someone willingly or through receiving ration went into a church or went and converted to Islam? My point is, it puts pressure on the law and order machinery. Kevin Matthew Sunny, you wanted to make a point.
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's first start not by looking at the act of conversion, but by the sources of funds that facilitate that act.
Source of funds. Karthik, let Kevin Matthew Sunny respond. Mr. Sunny, go on.
Karthik, hypothetically, agreeing to what you and Mr. Deshrathan said, let me, for time's sake, let me hypothetically agree with everything you said. Now you said opening the books to scrutiny. Okay, we can open everything to scrutiny. And Deshrathan sir said that there is intent. You can probably establish intent, but how do you prove intent? So by law, legally you cannot prove intent. So all you are trying to achieve is to establish intent and
That's
use
the
that
challenge.
to
Yeah.
as a tool to harass my other people. That's the only thing you're going to you can possibly do it.
Or accused
Right.
conversion is
Mr.
being
Nigam,
done.
you wanted to make a
If the
point on that
sources of funds are
note?
bona fide, if that organization is open to all kinds of scrutiny,
Right.
and then a person willingly, openly converts, so be it. But if there is some conspiracy behind that act of conversion, that must be examined and looked into, because this is happening not just across one faith, across a number of faiths. Today we have this problem in Punjab as well. You know, we've got a large number of missionaries who are en masse carrying out open.
But Karthik, does that indicate? But does that indicate the drawbacks of the government and as well as the Sikh faith when it comes to providing those services? Mr. Nigam, you want to make that point?
The Sikh faith provides services. It looks after its community.
Ayushmann, please allow me to speak.
Have you ever seen a Sikh begging on the road? Never. We look after our own. But what is happening is that if people are being induced beyond the point, there is a certain caste system that has been prevalent across the country for thousands of years.
Right. Mr. Nigam, you wanted to make that point. Go ahead.
Yes. Let me tell you, we have very well researched on the conflicts in the Northeast as to how the Northeast, the conflicts were created. Then the relief camps those violent conflicts were created by missionaries. Then the relief camps were opened for them by displacing large amount of population and then converting them. The role of missionaries in the Naxalism, promotion of Naxalism in tribal areas is very well documented by the government. So all this is a problem for national security and threat to national security. Yes, you cannot make a base for the helplessness and neediness of a person to convert that person. And so far as evidence is concerned, it can be collected by a number of ways. As one of the panelists pointed out, by audit of accounts, the source where it is coming from, the community in which he lives, what was his economic condition before and after the conversion. It can be very, very serious issues, and it can be found out. It's not a very difficult thing. But yes, the possibility of misuse that we are talking about, that will go in circles. Every good law which has been made in this country, there has been a possibility of use and real misuse also, for which our courts intervene. We have a judiciary that intervenes and protects that right to freely profess a religion, and that will always remain. The slight misuse of a law, whether it is domestic violence law, anti-dowries law, or for that matter any law, there is always a possibility of misuse of law. And as the law evolves, the changes in laws are also made through amendments or through a judge-made law. And therefore, to say that this law will be very difficult to implement, I don't think so. And this law is working quite well in a number of states.
Right. So there are safeguards in place even when it comes to cracking down on forced conversions. Right. We leave it at that, gentlemen. Deshratan Nigam, Karthik Chopra, Kevin Matthew Sani, Maulana Masood Ul Hassan Kazmi. Thank you for joining us. This debate over the conversion issue continues to rage. That's all we have to pack it on the show. Good night and take care.